On behalf of the Douglas County Community Character Coalition, I want to thank everyone for being here. We've got a wonderful turnout, and we really appreciate the community and this community particularly for what you help us stand for. So I'd like to read something this morning just real quick as we remember those in Boston and we remember those in West Texas. Just something real quick. It's called The Road to Success. The road to success is not straight. There is a curve called failure, a loop called confusion, speed bumps called friends, red lights called enemies, and caution lights called family. You will have flats called jobs. But if you have a spare called determination, an engine called perseverance, insurance called faith, and a driver called God, you will make it a place called success. Would you? Could I get you to stand, please, for our morning prayer, and please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Our dearest Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've created and the boundless blessings that you provide us each and every day. We thank you for this great nation and pray that all of our leaders will seek your wisdom and your guidance in every decision they make. Please be with all of our men and women in uniform, particularly those in harm's way, and return them home safely. We thank you for the people who are gathered here today that represent this community and that know the value of character in our lives. You've created each of us in your own image and have directed each of us to serve and not to be served. Please bless this coalition as part of that service so that we can recognize and promote the positive attributes in all of your creations. Dear Lord, we ask a special prayer for the Payne family and for our friend Rhonda, who served this county so faithfully and who is sitting with you today. Please bless these young people who are being recognized for their outstanding character and strengthen them to your future service. We thank you for this wonderful food and for the hands that prepared it, that we may use it to your good works. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Give them another hand. Good morning. We have a blessed morning here today. We have good shelter, we have great food, and we have good people. And what more could you ask for? Great country. I'd like to recognize all of our elected officials. If you would stand. We can't go around and introduce everybody, but we have the chairman and we have the mayor, and we have other elected officials. We welcome you and we thank you for honoring us today. We couldn't have the Character Coalition without the community, and I'm going to explain to you how we all came about, how this coalition came about. The Georgia legislature passed a law in the late 1990s requiring character training in our schools. Douglas County was declared a community of character by then Representative Bob Snelling in the 1999 House, through a resolution through the House. That resolution was adopted by both our city and our county governments here. The Community Character Coalition exists to advocate teaching and demonstrating positive moral character in all arenas: businesses, schools, families, and churches. I'd like to recognize our board. If the board members would stand. We have everybody from elected officials to sheriff's department representatives, school board representatives, and a lot of the judges, and we thank you for your service. We also have pastors too, don't we? Our youngest member is Daniel Gray from Church of Chapel Hill, and he's running our PowerPoint this morning. I would also like to thank Russ Roper for a Taste to Remember for the delicious food that we just enjoyed, and maybe still. Thank you. You know, much has been said throughout our history about the importance of teaching our children good morals. Many of our founding fathers spoke on this, past presidents. Benjamin Franklin once wrote, "Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom." So see, it's tied into America's form of government. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. So that kind of tells you how important morals is to teach. President Reagan once said that the character of a person has been determined by all the little choices of years past, has been determined by all the day-to-day decisions made when life seems easy and crisis seem far away. The decision that, piece by piece, bit by bit, developed habits of discipline or of laziness, habits of self-sacrifice or self-indulgence, habits of duty and honor and integrity or dishonor and shame. So that's why we take instructing our children in morals we don't take it very lightly, and because we know that we're not only going to affect this generation, but many generations to come. I would like to point out that right before the meeting, we were highlighting all the people that give ads to us or buy ads in our calendar. It's a fundraiser for us, how we're able to present these scholarships. And so if you're interested in an ad in our calendar, we have a couple of slots. On your table, there's an event that we will have in October. It will be our second family golf tournament, and we had a ball last year. You have to have a student on the team to play, and it was really fun. So if you're interested in putting together a team, be thinking about it now. Check out our website. We have lots of information on it. It's www.douglascountycharacter.com. And now we're going to have a student and do a character trait of integrity. Thank you. Where is he? Is Stephen White here?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Donita Cullen, and I have the pleasure of serving as the academic coordinator at the Douglas County Performance Learning Center. As the AC, I'm afforded the opportunity to interact with students each and every day, but I'm especially blessed when I watch students such as Stephen White work toward his goal of graduating from high school and prepare for life after graduation. Since being enrolled at the PLC, Stephen has served as a student ambassador and has been a member of the College Success Corps program. Last week, we were informed that Stephen was selected as one of 30 students statewide to participate in a college preparation summer program that includes an all-expense-paid trip to New York City. Stephen has always demonstrated great character both in and out of the classroom. So ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I introduce to you Mr. Stephen White, a senior from the Douglas County Performance Learning Center.
Good morning. How are y'all doing this morning? Good. All right. An article published in Forbes magazine on November 28, 2012 offered the following advice in terms of success and integrity. If I could teach only one value to live by, it would be this. Success will come and go, but integrity is forever. Integrity means doing the right thing at all times and in all circumstances, whether or not anyone is watching. It takes having the courage to do the right thing, no matter what the consequences will be. Building a reputation of integrity takes years, but it only takes seconds to lose. So never allow yourself to do anything that would damage your integrity. I have been a member of the Explorers program for 2 years. I decided to join the Explorers program because I love to help people. As a part of this program, I have to demonstrate the character trait of integrity by making the right decision when handling certain types of situations. We live in a world of reality TV where people are followed by cameras all day, every day, and we see all of their actions. We often find ourselves judging people on reality television shows, wondering what they were thinking when they did the certain type of things. But I ask you today to think about your actions yesterday. Take 10 seconds and think about your actions from the time you got out of bed to the time you went to sleep. Would your children, wife, husbands, friends, pastor, mother be pleased with everything you did? Remember, reality TV stars have a camera following them so we can see all of their actions, but the average person does not have a camera. What do you do when no one is watching? Are you living a life of integrity? Remember, it takes years to build a life of integrity, but only takes a second to lose. So before I leave, let me offer one piece of advice to help you live a life of integrity. Picture yourself as Snooki from Jersey Shore, and imagine that there's a camera following you. Now, what would you do? Thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Good morning. How appropriate of a forum is it for us to read the following? On March 25th, the state of Georgia and the General Assembly honored the life and memory of Miss Rhonda Payne. By resolution, I am proud that this was the very first resolution that I submitted as your state representative. It reads as the following: whereas the state of Georgia mourns the loss of one of its most distinguished citizens with the passing of Miss Rhonda Payne on March 17, 2013. And whereas Miss Payne began working for the Douglas County Superior Clerk's Office in 1986, just after she received her diploma from Douglas County High School. And whereas her energy and enthusiasm helped her rise to the position of office manager by the 1990s. By 1999, she was chief deputy clerk. And whereas Ms. Payne assumed the role of clerk in 2007 upon the previous clerk's passing and was officially elected to the position in November 2008. Whereas she gave inspiration to many through her high ideals, her morals, and her deep concern for her fellow citizens. And the devotion, patience, and understanding she demonstrated to her family and friends were admired by all. Whereas she was a person of magnanimous strengths with an unimpeachable reputation for integrity, intelligence, fairness, and kindness. And by the example she made of her life, she made this world a better place to live for us all. Whereas a compassionate and generous woman, Miss Rhonda Payne will long be remembered for her love of family and friendship. And this loyal friend will be missed by all who had the great fortune of knowing her. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of this body join in honoring the life and memory of Miss Rhonda Payne and express their deepest and most sincere regret at her passing. Be it further resolved that the Clerk of the House of Representatives is authorized and directed to transmit an appropriate copy of this resolution to the family of Miss Rhonda Payne. Read and adopted March 25th, 2013.
Good morning. It gives me great honor and privilege to be able to stand up here this morning with this great family and be able to honor the passing of one of our dear friends, Rhonda Payne. As some of you have heard me say before, some of us elected officials are the ones that are able to get up here and give the speeches and do these things. And my good friend, Commissioner Ann Jones-Guider, recognized the elected officials and asked us to stand. But it's all of you in this room that are to be honored and thanked for the many things that you do to help make this community the community that it is. It's all of us working together as Rhonda Payne did in the life that she exhibited and the ideals and the examples that she set. It's all of you here working together and many others that are not able to be here with us that help make this the great community that it is. And it's with great honor and privilege that I get to speak to the resolution that the City Council passed on April the 1st, 2013, honoring the life of one of our great citizens who exhibited all the things that we're here to talk about and represent this morning. It's easy to say things, but it's a whole different thing to live what you say and what you do. Rhonda Payne exhibited all the things that we're here to talk about this morning. So let me read this resolution that City of Douglasville City Council passed on April the 1st, 2013. It says, whereas the City of Douglasville and Douglas County lost one of its most distinguished citizens with the passing of Miss Rhonda Payne on March the 17th, 2013. And whereas Miss Payne began working with the Douglas County Superior Clerk's Office in 1986, just after she received her diploma from Douglas County High School in Douglasville. And whereas her energy and her enthusiasm helped her to rise to the position of office manager by the 1990s. And by 1999, she was chief deputy clerk. And whereas Miss Payne assumed the role of clerk in 2007 upon the previous clerk's passing and was officially elected to fill the position in November 2008. And whereas one of the proudest moments of her exemplary career was being selected as the 2007 Douglas County Administrative Employee of the Year. And whereas she gave inspiration to many through her life, ideals, morals, and deep concern for her citizens. And the devotion, patience, and understanding she demonstrated to her family and friends were admired by others. And whereas she was a person of magnanimous strengths with an unimpeachable reputation for integrity, intelligence, fairness, and kindness, And by the example she made of her life, she made this world a better place in which to live. And whereas a compassionate and generous woman, Miss Rhonda Payne, will long be remembered for her love of family and friendship, and this loyal friend will be missed by all who had the great fortune of knowing her. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and the members of the city council that we will join in honoring the life and memory of Miss Rhonda Payne and express our deepest and most sincere regrets at her recent passing. So resolved this first day of April 2013. I had the privilege of knowing Rhonda Payne and calling her my friend. She exhibited all the things that we talk about, and it's with great pleasure that I give this resolution to her family in honor and memory of the life that she lived. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Rhonda, the Payne family accepts these resolutions to tribute to her life. She always called this the CCC breakfast that she loved to come to. She loved each and every one of you, and she would want me to tell you, God bless you. Thank you.
What a wonderful family, do you not agree? I have the privilege. I'm George Chip. I'm the coordinator of student support Douglas County School System, and I'm glad to be in front of you, and especially all you young people. I have the privilege of introducing our guest speaker. He and I deployed to Iraq together, and he managed to get an old man back in a cockpit safely so that I was able to survive the mission, so I owe him a lot. He's the operation officer for the 78th Troop Command, Georgia Army National Guard. He's from Ackworth, Georgia. He now lives in Holly Springs with his wife and two beautiful daughters. I'd like to tell you a little bit about his education. This is for you young people. Listen carefully. And Judge Caldwell, I believe you're out there. You might want to hear this too. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice. He got that at North Georgia College in '96. He went to flight school, and he was the honor graduate. Now, I can't tell you how hard that is. When I went through flight school, I barely got through it. There's so many competitive people there, and they were so smart and intelligent and challenging, and he was the honor graduate. That gives you some idea of where his moniker lies. He's also been to the Aviation Managers course, and keep listening, young people, this gets more interesting. He was the Captain's Career Course, the Arms and Services Staff School, the General Staff College, Advanced Operations course, and also, on top of that, he's a UH-60 maintenance test pilot. Now, if you know anything about a test pilot, they have more courage than anyone in this room, because they go in the broken aircraft that I just busted, and they make sure it's going to work again. And they're willing to fly it in any condition, in any place in the world. That's a remarkable person that can do that. He's also an instructor pilot. He has more patience and perseverance than anyone because he takes people who don't know what they're doing in an aircraft going 140 knots, and he gets them where they need to go. That takes a lot of courage as well. He's a very well-traveled individual. He's been to Operation Iraqi Freedom. He also went to New Orleans for Hurricane Katrina relief. He went back to the Dominican Republic for Operation New Horizons, and of course he was in Operation New Dawn. He has many medals that he's earned, including the Bronze Star, the Air Medal, and the Combat Action Badge.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Jason Fryman.
Well, good morning. And what a great morning. And I got to tell you, I'm very nervous. I am not a public speaker by no means. And I'm going to dime George out here for a second. But when he called me, he asked me, he said, hey, I need a favor. I need a guest speaker. And I said, okay, what for? He said, well, it's the Character Coalition that they do in Douglasville. It's for the high school kids, and this one's going to be for the scholarship recipients. I want you to talk about stories about courage, integrity, and professionalism, patriotism. And I thought, okay, I've never done any public speaking before. Probably need to get more comfortable doing it. High school kids, I can hold that pretty good. And how bad could it be? The kids aren't in my neighborhood. I'm a little north of Atlanta, so if I mess it up or sound like an idiot, I can live past that. And I'm actually in more schools, as Chip was talking about, to go to the instrument examiner's course, which I go in next week. So I was at a prep course, had some scheduling conflicts, wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it out here or not, and I told him, I said, look, let me check my calendar, and if it's open and I'm here, I'll do it. He said, great. I checked my calendar. I was like, yep, I'm going to be here. I said, George, I'm in. He said, fantastic. And he sends me this confirmation email that gives me the time, location, and a little bit about the audience. It says it's going to be comprised of the students, the parents, elected officials, law enforcement, clergy, and the school personnel, of course. About 250 people need you to talk about 25 to 30 minutes. And my stomach just nodded. And that is no lie. So I've done my best to put some notes together, but I'm going to have to call some audibles here because I thought it was going to be high school kids, and obviously it's not. So trying to think of what to talk about. Our Guard leadership wants us to tell our story more. I'm a National Guardsman. I'm a citizen soldier. So they encourage us to get out and tell the story of the Guard. So this is another reason why I wanted to come do this and to personally develop a little more in public speaking. Follow up to that, tried to think, what do they want to hear? In the notes that I've written, putting myself in what I thought was the high school perspective, tell me about you, tell me what you do, tell me about your experiences, and what does that have to do with character. And I hope that I can get through some stories with you. I'm going to do more stories because this is a different audience here than give a lesson on the character piece of it. But I hope that it goes through as cogent as possible and can make some semblance of a point at the end of it. So about me. I'm Stephen White 20 years ago. That's no joke. Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, something resonated with that to continue my service. I'm a local guy, grew up in Ackworth, as you saw. Local town, local high school, went to high school with that representative right there. And local college, commissioned into the Georgia Army National Guard, local church, local career. I work at Dobbins Air Reserve Base. As a kid, I did the sports, I did the scouts, I did the school, and I did ROTC, which he remembers. And I remember this time, your time, Stephen White's time, of being there at the end of high school and looking forward. And I'm nowhere near the end of my military career, at least I hope. I've been in 16 years, and I don't know that I have a whole lot of lessons to tell you to look back upon, but I've hit the 20-year mark since your point. So I'm going to try to present some information from that, but I don't have all the answers. There's a lot more senior folks in here, a lot more lessons learned, folks in here that this village has to continue to teach to you guys, but I'll do my best. 20 years later, I'm 38, again 16 years in the military. Excuse me. Just got promoted to lieutenant colonel about a year ago when we got back from Iraq. I'm married 16 years. I have 2 daughters. Been deployed twice, as you saw. All of those schools and all of those qualifications sounds a lot more impressive than it feels. I'm a dual status civil service technician. That's my everyday job. I wear this uniform. I run an operation up at Dobbins. I have a hangar with about 24 aircraft in it. And our mission, our job, is to conduct the maintenance on the airframes, conduct all the operations on the airframes, and the training and evaluation and safety programs for the traditional National Guard soldier like Mr. Chip, who has a normal career, civilian career, but he's taken an oath to support and defend our Constitution, and he has certain training proficiencies that he has to maintain. So about once a week, all those guys come in, they sign in, they go take an aircraft out for a couple hours and bring it back, and they go do their training or their evaluation or whatever it is that they need to do. They got to fly 96 hours every year, the same that an active duty soldier has to maintain. So there's a lot on that aviator that is that citizen soldier. They have the same requirements as that active duty guy. How do we do that? We do that through the facility that I run there. Stories. Okay, we just got back from New Dawn, and it was the very end, excuse me, it was the very end of the war in Iraq, and everything was collapsing down, and we were literally there up to December when they couldn't make the decision whether or not we were going to stay in past December with a small footprint, or if the Iraqi government and our U.S. government could figure out an agreement or not to pull us out completely. And that decision got delayed and delayed, which puts everybody in a predicament. But we all came out, obviously. What we went over there with was a General Support Aviation Battalion. And because everything was collapsing and drawing down, what normally had been for the last 10 years in Iraq were 4 aviation brigades in theater, and they divided up Iraq north, south, east, and west. By the time we got there, and as everything was drawing down, we were down to 1 aviation brigade, and it was an enhanced brigade. It was plussed up. Everybody was plussed up with extra assets, extra folks to cover the entire theater with 1 cab. Our piece of that cab was the General Support Aviation Battalion, the largest battalion in the brigade. We had 800 soldiers at one point and 51 aircraft. A normal battalion is about 530 aircraft. So we had a battalion plus another battalion and a half. And it was thrown together. The way the Guard is, we've got, particularly in aviation, there isn't enough aviation assets to go around. So we have assets in this state, we have assets in that state. We'll take this unit and we'll carve it up, spread it out so everybody's got a little bit. But when we deploy, everybody comes together, we all get on the same procedures, and we all go over as one team, which is a tremendous leadership challenge, particularly when they've got their own procedures when they're in their own state. And now we're following up underneath a different headquarters. And so you can imagine, as everybody collapsed in on Fort Hood, which was our mobilization site, and we had 60 days to get everybody together. All right, so 60 days to integrate staffs, integrate soldiers, integrate air crews, integrate procedures, do all of those things, and then validate through First Army, through a number of exercises and evaluations to go overseas. And we did it, according to them, the best they'd ever seen. And that was a result of good leadership, my boss, which is a fantastic leader, Dwayne Wilson, and through just the right attitude, okay? I think I wrote in here, C.S. Lewis and said, what you see and what you hear depends a great deal on where you're standing. He said, it also depends on what sort of person you are. So perception comes into play with that a lot. We had active duty guys, we had National Guard guys, all thrown together. We went over 51 aircraft. We flew in 10 months, I guess it was 11 months, almost 11 months, 25,000 hours on those aircraft. We ran nonstop. And it was interesting because I went over to Iraq in '04. And you could see, it was such an interesting experience as a leader, the progression of where we were at and how we operated in '04 to 2010, 2011. The Army had gotten smarter. The procedures had all just been handed down to the next crew that came in and tweaked and tightened until all of the efficiency had been squeezed out of it. And you come over there and you go in and you execute 25,000 hours. And these guys are very regimented, very structured. And the only way that you can do that safely, which we did and brought everybody home and every piece of equipment home, is with good staff, good people, and the right decision makers as you go through it. Let's see. The pilots, just to give you some perspective, our CH-47 guys, the Chinooks with the tandem rotor, they were only allowed to fly at night because they were a great big target. They flew all night long. In fact, that was their motto, all night long. And they took Lionel Richie's stenciled head and put it everywhere around Fort Hood, around Iraq, around Baghdad. Everywhere you went, you see this sticker or this stencil painted of Lionel Richie, and it says all night long. Hilarious. In fact, follow-up to that, once those guys got home, Lionel Richie went out to their facility and sat down and talked with the whole crew, which was really cool. So they flew as soon as it got dark until the sun was coming up. They flew. Their max that they could fly was 6 hours by crew endurance, by their requirement. And they would fly 6 hours every night, every crew member. The day guys could go up to 8 hours. George Chip, those guys would get up in the morning, 4 o'clock, come in and get their morning brief, go out to their aircraft, and they'd climb in, strap that thing on their back, and they'd sit in it for 6 to 8 hours every day, with 1 day off a week, and just cycling that through. And we did that from the moment we got there till the moment we left. Impressive machine to jump in the middle of and observe and come out of. Let's see. 3 stories, 3 people. We talk character traits. First being Sergeant Dennis Bowles. Sergeant Bowles, 46-year-old aircraft mechanic. He was one of my soldiers. That on the first deployment, same thing, the Guard merges from different states. He was out of Florida and jumped in with us. We go deploy. Bowles was an older guy, kind of kept to himself, neat guy, actually brought a drum set. Aviation guys are a little quirky. Brought a drum set over there, and he'd open up one of those Sealand vans after his day was over, pull his drums out, and he'd start playing the drums right there on the flight line. Okay. He was also into fitness. He took this on as a personal challenge to get in shape, and he did. October 24th, we did the Army 10-miler. You guys are familiar with the Army 10-miler, probably the biggest 10-mile race in the U.S. We did it overseas, and we did this in Kuwait. It's still probably 120 degrees in the daytime there. And you could do it a couple different ways. You could run the whole 10 miles yourself. You could do a relay team with your guide on. You remember this. And, or you could do the Clydesdale. And the Clydesdale was you put a 50-pound ruck on your back with a team of 4 or 5, and you go do it together, the whole thing. And he wanted to do the Clydesdale, so we made a team, and I was a little concerned about him. I was wrong to be. We move out. Stupid me, I put on a new pair of boots because I'd been using some steel-toed while I was over there. Bad idea. About mile 2 or 3, I had to stop and put some moleskin on my feet. We moved out, and Bowles was gone. The guy walked the perimeter all the time, It's like 7 or 8 miles around the perimeter. He was great. He was a former Marine, and he took his fitness pretty serious. We do the 10 miles, and on the last turn, there's a 90-degree turn, and there's a long straightaway, probably 300 or 400 yards. And of course, the Clydesdale crew are the last ones finishing the race. I mean, it's already gotten hot. The race is completed by all the runners, and we're just, trucking away. He makes a turn, and he starts running to the finish with his rucksack. I hadn't even made the turn yet. He left me. I get around the corner, and I'm making my way down to the finish line. Big crowd, big banner, finish line. And I see somebody laying on the ground over there, and I see his feet. I see folks around him. It was hot. I thought somebody's had a heat casualty, got a little hot, overheated. Not unusual for one of the rucksack guys. Continue walking on, making my way. Get a little closer, and I realize they're doing chest compressions on this guy. I was like, whoa, that's not good. We had a medevac crew right there. He had the medics on him already. Didn't know who it was, but I was like, he's obviously getting the attention that he needs. I'm going to keep clear, make my way around. And I continue on, and I realize as I get closer to him, they'd cut his clothes off, and they were doing the AED on him. I was like, oh, no, that's bad. Keep walking. And as I'm walking by, I start to see my soldiers and their faces. Hang on. And I realized then that that was my soldier on the ground. I still can't talk about it. They put him in a helicopter. They took him to the hospital, and he was dead on arrival. And they said the autopsy, the amount of fluid he had on his heart, he was probably gone before he hit the ground. 46 years old. Hard to do as a young company commander to then stand in front of those soldiers and do a memorial service for your own. And then call his wife in the middle of the night, because you're on the other side of the world, after she'd been officially notified, and try to answer some questions and give her some information about how it happened. And I remember the grace that that woman had and the comfort she had from her God. I literally didn't know what to say. She took charge of the conversation, and she said that he died doing what he loved to do, and he wouldn't have it any other way. I was like, God bless you. He was a Marine, NCO, non-commissioned officer. When he was young, did his time, did his commitment, got out. 9/11 happened, and he raised his hand. He said, I'm going to do it again. That's just my duty. And took a reduction in rank to come into the Guard and do that. And I sent him home in a box. Change the tone here. Second story. CW4 Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin and I were in the instructor pilot's course together, Great American. Mike Tomlin was an Apache pilot, active duty, when the war started. And he was on the initial assault with the Apaches, first cav, running across the desert. Told me the story, and he didn't like to talk about it, about that first engagement. And you can read the news about it. But they came in, and they were headed right towards this one town before they got to Baghdad. And he said all the lights went off. He thought that was weird. And they're all online, and they're moving up. And he said the sky just lit up. They don't have a whole lot of good communications over there, but they do have cell phones. And that's the way that they had signaled the attack. And for everybody to come out with every AK that they had, and the skies lit up and just tore those aircraft to pieces. They flew right over the city. They lost. I mean, it's just like planning. You know, you make your plan, you fly your plan, but no plan, what is it? Once the first contact is made, the plan is, you know, the plan is now all audibles. The plan is not going to be executed as you expected. So they broke off and just kind of lost their mind there for a little bit, trying to figure out, because we hadn't had engagements prior to that. And they train on ranges, and they get online and in fireboxes, and they shoot their guns and they shoot their missiles downrange, but it's all very choreographed. And now they're in it, and they're losing their minds. And Mike's aircraft got shot up pretty bad. The Apache is an amazing aircraft. It is a titanium tub for the two pilots around guns. Okay, the rest of the armament, it's just to protect that crew, and the rest of it's guns and missiles, armament. His co-pilot in the front seat, his gunner, took a 20-millimeter round through his neck and went through the radios. They lost comms. They'd lost hydraulic power. The internal microphone was in and out. All he could hear was his front seater yelling at times, gurgling at times, and in and out of consciousness. And everything's going nuts around him. And the younger pilots, he was a younger pilot, but by active standards, he was probably a little more seasoned than the rest. With no hydraulics, there's a backup system, and it's fly-by-wire. It's called the Bucks. He's on the Bucks. He figures out which radios are able to work. He gets in touch with everybody. He coordinates them to a rally point, gets them out of the engagement area, and gets everybody home for the most part. Now, those aircraft, I think most of them made it back. Ron Young, you guys know, didn't make that back and was captured. That was that initial assault. And I forget what the numbers were, 48 aircraft, and I think only 6 of them or less were flyable after that first engagement. And his front seater lived through it. He was okay. And got bandaged up, fixed up, and thrown back into the fight. And mentally wasn't really prepared to do that. Mike Tomlin didn't cut him enough slack on that, I don't think. He probably regrets that. But they had to go right back out and get engaged. That was their mission. But they did it smarter from then on. And that whole time period, that first engagement, had big Army wondering, have we even done the right thing with our active component in these aircraft? Do we even know what we're doing with them? And they proved themselves after that one engagement. But that's heroism, that's patriotism, that is duty, and a lot of bravery to endure that. Even the guy that got shot, he got back in the cockpit eventually and continued his tour. I couldn't imagine that. The last story I got for you is not a great American. He's actually an Iraqi officer, Colonel Najm. I had the privilege on this last deployment to be our battalion lead for a partnership program with the Iraqi Army. And Colonel Najm was the wing commander, the air wing commander of an Iraqi Army aviation unit. It was a Huey unit that they wanted to pair us up and have us train their guys on how we do missions and how we do planning and synchronize our procedures with theirs to try to lift them up and prepare them to take on, their security mission for their country. Colonel Najm, what a neat guy. And I would get to go over to the Iraqi side. We had a great big runway there at Taji. And all the U.S. troops were on one side, and the other side was the Iraqi troops. And I'll tell you, the first time I heard that, I was like, that doesn't sound good at all. But the war had changed in 10 years. And we would go over there probably once every 2 weeks, sometimes more often. Wasn't many of us, just some of the leadership. They're still very traditional in rank and class structure, I guess. So if it wasn't my commander, it was the number 2 guy. Otherwise, they didn't pay too much attention to you. But great guy. He was in prison, I think, for 16 years under Saddam. And once that turned over, he was reinstated as an Army officer and commanded this unit. And they weren't very well liked in that community. He and his men lived on that base for 2 weeks straight, even though their families were probably 20 minutes down the road in Baghdad. And they couldn't go home in their uniforms. They couldn't drive to work in their uniforms. Assassinations were happening all over the place. They risked their life every day to do what they did. And that was pretty amazing to me. And our relationship grew, and we continued to do missions together, training missions mostly. But it culminated on September 11th, 2011, with me flying a UH-60 behind Colonel Najm and his young lieutenant and another aircraft that did some PR stuff and took some pictures and stuff all over Baghdad, over the Tiers of Allah, just outside of Sadr City. We had a policy, we flew at least 500 feet. They were lead. They were trying to make a statement to their countrymen that the partnership is a good thing. And I wasn't real comfortable with it, but he continued to go down a little lower and slower in the Huey. And we're very regimented on how we plan things. I was like, we're going to do this. We're going to fly this altitude. We're going to hit these points. Contingencies, if you get shot, this is what we're going to do. If we get shot down, this is what our other aircraft's going to do and you're going to do. And go through all these plans. Colonel Najm put his hand on my shoulder and he said, sounded more like, Inshallah. Inshallah. God willing. It's like, no. If we get shot down, we're going to do this. If you get shot down, you're going to do this. Inshallah. I know you are nervous. Inshallah. A lot of bravery there. A lot of commitment to service. Stands out, obviously, and it is one of the most rewarding things that I've done in my military career, particularly on that deployment. So, those are my 3 stories. Well, one more story. 4 May. 4th of May, it was 4 May, wasn't it? At 4:50 in the morning, somewhere around there, we got attacked. Our FOB, our forward operating base, or our contingency operating base, got attacked by the insurgents. And this was early in our deployment. And things had calmed down. Somebody had put out on Twitter or whatever that the fight had gone to Afghanistan at this point. There really wasn't that many engagements for the insurgency. Al-Qaeda was up in Afghanistan. They weren't so much. There was an element, but it had turned the corner in Iraq for the most part. But they obviously continue to jockey for position and power down there. And we get attacked. 51 mortars in about 3 minutes. 2 different sites, 2 tubes here shooting simultaneously, and I guess 1 at the other. We have these horns. That are hooked up to a Q-36 radar system that it just tracks artillery tracks. And if it picks up any track, it's going to make the association that that's incoming rounds. And it, through the computer system, is going to sound the alarm locally where it projects impact. So the in-brief that you get when you get there is, if you hear the alarm, get in a bunker or get on the ground. Because if it's going off, it's going to hit near you. Other bases in previous deployments, they had the radar guns that could shoot the rounds in the air, or they had U.S. mortar teams, artillery teams that could counter fire on it. We had nothing at Taji. Things were winding down, and the alarms start going off right when all of our crews were changing out. That was the hour that you're coming in if you're on shift on the day, or you're going home if you're on the night. We had guys out. Most of the folks were in the racks, I think. Day for them, I think, normally start about 7, unless you're the aircrew guys. And the way the base was laid out, they had concentrated the pods that we lived in, which were little metal sheds, trailers, about 4 foot from each other, maybe, with about every 9, they'd cluster 9 of them and put some tall concrete barriers around them to protect against shrapnel and stuff like that. And it was right in the center. 51 rounds impacted that morning, and they hit and tracked to the south and west towards the barracks area, and then somehow skipped the barracks area and continued north and east onto the airfield. Only one guy got hit with a piece of shrapnel, went through his shoulder. A couple other guys had some hit pretty close, blew out their eardrums. We had guys on top of aircraft that had rounds hit beside and bounced down the runway without detonating beside them. Unbelievable that it wasn't absolutely devastating. And I think it's only by God's grace, honestly, when you look at the footprint of where everything hit. That was an interesting morning, for sure. And I can remember George in the bunker that morning, because it's all going off. As soon as it completes, throwing on my uniform, and I'm marching down thinking there's no way that we don't have guys hurt all over the place. And we didn't, amazingly. I know we got to wrap up. I'm going to throw out a couple things just so that there is a lesson to character on some of it. And this has been a pretty reflective year for me because of a school that I've been doing, this advanced operations course. And they wanted me to write about an article that was in the Harvard Business Review back in 2002. And it was about crucibles of leadership. And you guys can look that up, September 2002, Harvard Business Review. And that article presents that one of the most reliable indicators and predictors of leadership is an individual's ability to find meaning in intense, often traumatic, and always unplanned experiences in one's life. They explained, for the leaders we interviewed, the crucible experience was a trial and a test and a point of deep self-reflection that forced them to question who they were and what mattered to them. It required them to examine their values, question their assumptions, and hone their. And invariably, they emerged from the crucible stronger and more sure of themselves and their purpose, changed in some fundamental way. The article then defines 4 skill elements of leadership common among those interviewed that the authors consider essential in allowing a person to find meaning in what could be a debilitating experience. And they were, those 4, the ability to engage others in shared meaning. And I redefine that as connecting. Okay. Number 2, a distinctive and compelling voice. And I relabeled that communicating, connecting and communicating. A sense of integrity, including a strong set of values. I redefine that as of character. And the last, dubbed most critical, was this adaptive capacity. And it's the combination of hardiness and the ability to grasp context that, above all, allows a person not only to survive an ordeal, but to learn from it and to emerge stronger, more engaged, and more committed than ever. Reading the article, haven't had to write a paper. I'm still in school. It continues. You never get away from it. I realized that first deployment as a company commander was my crucible experience that helped us to define the successes that we had on that second one. I endured losses. I endured all the pressures. I was the full-time planning officer for logistics, and then I was also a company commander up until we finally left, and then I just became the company commander. Whole lot of, what is a crucible? A severe test or tremendous forces upon, like a crucible thermos or furnace that changes and molds, right? So my crucible, I think, was that company command time which obviously, just like the mayor, I mean, it's hard to talk about those that you loved and protect that you no longer have with you. I could tell you about how I grew from it. It's that self-awareness, that self-reflection, which I don't do much of until had to, that you learn from. And that would be my lesson for Stephen White and the like, is that there's not a whole lot of lesson in successes and conservative action. We in the military are in the information business in order to make decisions with the best information we have that potentially are risky, but we've mitigated and made the most informed decision, and we got to go and stick and fight it. Okay. And I just lost my point. In successes, there's not a lot of lessons to learn. In failures, there's a tremendous amount. So don't avoid them, okay? Don't be passive. Don't be milquetoast. You ever heard the word milquetoast? Timid, meek, unassertive. Don't be passive. Be the young lion. There's a lot of elected officials. There's a lot of community leaders that you see, and I'm not going to name any, but you make that association of the young lion, okay, that pushes and takes it and commands the experience rather than just endures the experience. We fabricate those in the military. We make training exercises that will overwhelm you, to force you to fail, to push you over so that you then review it and learn from it. Put yourself out there and take those chances, because you'll learn more from your failures than you will from your successes. Stand for something. And in order to stand for something, you got to stand on something, and that's principles and values. And y'all probably heard the Army values speech before. I think Colonel Bracewell may have come out, maybe not. But our organization defines values. But every individual defines values within themselves. And it's those ones that resonate with you that kind of guide you into what you're going to become. Stand on something. And I think that's my last point. Probably a lot of folks that are great speakers out here. And if I messed it up, I apologize, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Good morning. My name is Pam Nail, and I'm an Associate Superintendent for the Douglas County School System, and I'm a member of the Community Character Coalition of Douglas County. Each year, the coalition awards 3 scholarships: a gold scholarship in the amount of $2,000, a silver in the amount of $1,000, and a bronze in the amount of $500. These are to seniors who are residents of Douglas County who attend school in Douglas County. Seniors from public and private schools are eligible, as well as seniors from a homeschool program. In addition to the scholarship award, the student's teacher named as having the most impact on them will receive $50. Applicants must have a 3.0 grade point average or higher and must have planned to attend an institute of higher learning. These students are expected to demonstrate active participation in service projects in the community, and most importantly, these students must demonstrate positive character qualities in and out of school. The recipient of the Bronze Scholarship was named a College Board Advanced Placement Scholar, a Douglas County Board Scholar, received the University of Georgia Certificate of Merit, the AHS Superintendent Award, Perfect Attendance, Top 40, and the Language Arts Award. She received a varsity letter for cheerleading and was awarded the Best All-Around Cheerleader while on the junior varsity team. She was the Governor's Honors Program nominee for Math and Science and was awarded the United States Senate Youth Program Candidate County winner. She participates in the Excel Dual Enrollment Program through Georgia Highlands College. She is active in her youth group by serving as a student leader and a member of the Student Mission Team. She is a member of the National Honor Society, Student Government Association, Beta Club, First Priority, Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, and participated in cheerleading in the chorus, musical, and show choir for 3 years. Kylie Black is the recipient of the Bronze Scholarship. She plans to attend Mercer University in the fall and major in chemistry and pre-pharmacy. Kylie identified Coach Higginbotham as the teacher who had the most positive impact on her character development. In her application, she stated, "He is so helpful and encouraging to his students, and every day in class he would tell us how awesome we are." She also stated that when he saw his students in the hall, that he would yell out to them, "You're awesome." Congratulations, Kylie Black and Coach Higginbotham. The recipient of the Silver Scholarship was named a College Board Advanced Placement Scholar, AHS Top 10, Scholar Athlete, received the University of Georgia Certificate of Merit, and was named Mr. Alexander for 2012-2013. He was a member of the football team all 4 years, playing many positions on offense and defense while being team captain as well. He was selected as the Homecoming King for 2012. He is a member of the National Honor Society, First Priority, FCCLA, and is a student mentor at Bellarp Elementary. Evan Wood is the recipient of the Silver Scholarship. He plans to attend Carnegie Mellon University in the fall and major in engineering. Evan shared that fortunately there were many teachers throughout his school career that had a positive impact on his character development, but identified Coach Matt Combs as the teacher who had the most positive impact on his character development. In his application, he stated, "Coach Combs is like a life teacher. He says that Coach Combs has given him a blueprint that he can always refer to and be successful." He states that Coach Combs probably may not realize how his influence has shaped him, but it is because of his influence that he has continued to excel academically and personally. Congratulations, Evan Wood and Coach Combs. The recipient of the Gold Scholarship was recognized for AHS Top 10, being a Wendy's High School Heisman nominee, receiving the Accelerated Math 1 and 3 awards, receiving the Advanced Placement Chemistry Award, being a Governor's Honors County nominee in mathematics, receiving the Superintendent Scholar Award, and receiving the 9th Grade Leadership Award. He participates in the National Honor Society, is a member of the math team, First Priority, is a member of the Central Baptist Youth Group, is the captain of the varsity soccer team, and is also the starting goalkeeper. He was named the Douglas County Sentinel Soccer Player of the Year for 2012 and was named as a member of the All-County Soccer Team in 2011. He has mentored at Bright Star Elementary, served on mission trips with his church, and many other volunteer activities. Drew Gamble is the recipient of the Gold Scholarship. He plans to attend Georgia College and State University in the fall and major in biology and pre-med. Drew identified Coach Chris Small as the teacher who had the most positive impact on his character development. In his application, he described Coach Small as being honest, compassionate, responsible, and trustworthy. He stated that Coach Small taught him how important it is to be focused, yet flexible, to be disciplined, yet relaxed, to be tough, yet compassionate, to be confident, yet humble. Congratulations, Drew Gamble and Coach Small. On behalf of the Community Character Coalition of Douglas County, we want to thank all of you for being here. We want to thank the parents who were able to come, students, principals, those of you who brought students with you, whether they be elementary, middle, or high school, just the opportunities that they see that might be out there for them when they are graduating seniors. I want to thank George Chip for getting our speaker, and Lieutenant Colonel Jason Fryman for speaking us today. We appreciate that. I want to thank Ms. Connie Kraft and her staff and students for the entertainment that you provided today. It was excellent. And Dr. Danita Cullen and Stephen White for presenting the character word, integrity. We appreciate you, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.